Hey everybody, I'm Blue, and today I wanted to talk about an experimental piece that I finished just before recording this of my mischievous knight, V. We had talked about them very briefly in the Art Fight Kiddos video, but I'm gonna go a little bit more into depth on them as well as just the process for this. So sit back, relax, and join me and V in a little bit of mischief. Typically speaking, when I make a character, they have a very strong sense of justice, something that compels them to act and compels them to make decisions. This helps in both a TTRPG setting for me to know how my character should react and a list of guidelines to help me when they're still new, as well as it gives them a direct line of thought in a story type situation so that you don't have to guess what they're thinking, you don't have to guess what's going on with them, you just know based off of their sense of justice. And this is the same whether I'm making a goody two-shoes hero, an anti-hero, or a villain. It's just an easy go-to guideline for me, which is part of what makes V so special. One of my challenges I tried to do with them in particular was I wanted to create a genuinely morally gray character. And it was something that I wasn't familiar with, it's not something that I quite understand, and so I had to think of something that I really like that I could use to kind of rework the character. And so I chose to have V be dramatic. They're in it for the kicks and giggles, they're in it for the fun, they're in it for the drama, the comedy, whatever that can be drawn out of a situation, that's what they're there for. Whether it's at their expense or others, they don't particularly care as long as it's entertaining, which has made them a particularly chaotic hindrance in the campaign that they are in. As a tribute to the fact that they're sort of a morally gray character, I wanted to do something with a very limited color palette, and what came to mind for me was the Persona 5 promo art. I love this style so much. I love the steep contrast between the black and the white, and that pop of red just really brings something distinct and iconic to these characters, as well as the overall game's art style. And I know myself and my style well enough to know that I'm not going to be able to do a one-to-one recreation of it, so my idea was just to focus on the vibes and limiting my color palette as much as possible. Which, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know is very hard for me because I love my colors. But V was an excellent model for this, having a predominantly already black and red color scheme. It kind of helped me zone out of it just a little bit. But of course, I couldn't resist making the eyes sharp and yellow so that they stood out. They were distinct, looking directly at you, with the hope of it just adding a little bit of a spooky unhingedness to their expression. But as you can see, kind of layering in those blacks, trying to make the shading a little bit more dramatic, I wasn't sure how to do it, and I feel like overall, I kind of got lost incorporating it, seeing it along like the back of the head and down the hair. I think the length of the hair turned out pretty good, but I'm not too terribly sure on the rest of it. And if anybody has a solid reference on a hairstyle that's kind of like this, please let me know, because I have been struggling. Hey, cool fantasy anime hair, it doesn't particularly matter, but I do feel like somewhere between the way that it's braided back and the thickness on the other side, something gets lost every time I draw them. Something I still struggle with when drawing digitally is knowing how in detail to go. When you can zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and make it so tiny and so small that you can do every little highlight on every teeny tiny little chain, I kind of feel obligated to do it. However, as you're going to see here in a little bit, I ended up doing a blur effect on all of the chains, and that makes all the little tiny detail work I did completely obsolete. And yet, I'd still say it was worth it, because as we start to layer the effects, I think the chains turned out really nice. And where yes, the original inspiration for this had been something, you know, quote-unquote morally gray, I found the song Fences from Paramore, which is something I hadn't heard of in forever, and the lyrics just fit them so well, which was a big inspiration for that little graffiti splash in the back. And now you can't turn back, because this road is all you'll ever have. And there we go, having tried a lot of new things and experimented and tried effects that I hadn't tried before, at the end of this piece I have to say, I have no idea what I think about it. Genuinely, I can't tell if I like this or not. But regardless of my feelings, it's very dramatic, which is exactly the way V likes it. So whether or not I feel it's an overall good piece or not, well, at least I did justice to the character. And any time you spend drawing is time well spent. And if you liked it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, please do that. Anyways, later!